Time to. Hey, good morning, guys. Good morning. Mike. Thank you for that rousing welcome this morning. Yeah. I know what you're all thinking. Can you hear me? No. Can you hear me, Griffiths? What? Yeah, okay. So now, I know what you're all thinking. You're all thinking, what in the world is this guy doing up there? Well, here's the truth, okay? Pastor Tom goes, hey, we need just one more guy, and just go to the website, see who signed up. So everything is taken except today and 2 weeks from today. So you're stuck with me today. So suck it up, right? Okay, let's get started. You got notes on your table, right? Okay. So I think, just my personal opinion, this is the strongest passage that you're going to see in James's message. And previous 4 chapters, he's peppering all kinds of commands and exhortations to all of these people, all of the Jewish people that have been scattered, and they're all over the Roman Empire, not quite sure where, but they're scattered. And he seems to be taking this real in-your-face attitude in James chapter 5, the first 6 verses, and he's focusing on wealthy, rich people. But I want us to take a closer look because it's not just people that are wealthy and rich. So let's dive into it. Get out your Bible app, or if you got your paper Bible, like some of you old timers, got paper Bible, right? Some of you new timers, you got your app, bring that app out. And as we're reading, I think that, I personally think that there's this tone that when James is writing, he's kind of like kicking himself. You know, he's kind of like, he has this, he's wondering, gosh, why didn't I pay attention to my older brother, you know, when he was growing up and we were growing up. And I think you all know that James really didn't accept Jesus as Lord until after he appeared to him, after the resurrection. So you get that impression, at least I get that impression, that he wished he would have paid closer attention to Jesus when Jesus was around, you know? So let's take a look at James 5, first 6 verses. Now listen, you rich people, weep and wail because of the misery that's coming on you. Your wealth is rotted, and moths have eaten your clothes. Your gold and silver are corroded. Their corrosion will testify against you and eat your flesh like fire. You have hoarded wealth in the last days. Look, the wages you failed to pay the workers who mowed your fields are crying out against you. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord Almighty, and you've lived on earth in luxury and self-indulgence. You have fattened yourselves in the day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered the innocent one who was not opposing you. You know, when I first read this, I thought it was talking about rich people, right? So then I thought back, you know, about a month or so ago, Jonathan, in his message, talked about those who live in the United States. He even said this last week. Those who live in the United States are among the top 5% of the richest people in the world. And it may be hard for some of us to believe that. But, you know, if you've ever taken a trip overseas, especially a missions trip overseas, you can certainly understand that that's the case, right? So many of us, even though we don't realize it, are well off, So then I thought back a little bit more, and it took me back about 26 years ago, 1996, I went on my first missions trip to Quito, Ecuador. First time overseas, and we were going there. It was a construction team. My brother Bill White was there, heading that team up. Didn't you head that up, Bill? I thought so. No? You can't remember, can you, Bill? Okay. So we were there to work on building a church, and it was a church that our youth group had been there the year before, and they had helped lay the foundation for this church. We were working alongside Native South Americans. You know, we have Native Americans here in our country, and South Americans have Native Americans there too, the Quechua Indians. And very humble, hardworking people. One of the things I remember that still lingers in my mind is going to the latrine. You know, one of the first things you learn, you're in a third world country or developing country, is ¿Dónde es el baño? ¿Dónde es el baño? Where is the bathroom, right? So Had to go to the bathroom, walking, they said, it's over there, it's over there. Go walking over there, and there's this big, monstrous dog there, big white dog. And we termed him Blanco Perro, big white dog, right? So I had to walk around the big white dog, friendly thing. Didn't bother me, right? Used the bathroom, used the latrine. And then came out, and I said, what's the deal with the dog, Oh, the dog's there to keep the rats away from the latrine. I said, well, you really don't need the dog there. The smell alone will keep the rats away from the latrine. So first exposure to going to the bathroom in a hole in the ground, basically. No flush toilets, right? So cement bathroom. Everything is cement, right? Carton cement up and down, stairs and around. And the people were just humble, strong, hardworking people. And I've also had this opportunity over the years after that to go on 6 more mission trips. And most of them all outside the country. Went to an Indian reservation once, and it's not that much different from a developing country. And my job also took me to Ethiopia and Africa, and took 6 trips to Uganda. So here's what I learned through all of that exposure. We're rich. I'm rich. You're all rich compared to these folks, right? So straw huts in some of those countries, dirt floors. Even if you have a cement home, a home built out maybe out of mud or actual cement, many times there's a dirt floor inside. Usually the bathroom or the latrine is outside away from the house to separate things from the smell. And very little furniture. Sometimes we were sitting on rocks that were brought in from around the yard. It's rare to have running water. If you have running water, you're a privileged person, actually. And clean water, even clean water. In fact, some of the water that's in our toilets here is cleaner than the water that people have to use in developing countries. So, and I found myself thinking, gosh, I wonder where I'm going to stay on this next mission trip that I go. And I found myself thinking, gosh, I hope I don't have to live like they live while I'm here. I was looking for a comfortable place to be, and I'm ashamed to say that, So you have people that are happy and content in their circumstances, even if they have little. And it's the whole thing about, I'm rich. I just kept thinking, I'm a rich person. We're all rich. Met this guy in Uganda. His name was Kizito Johnson. And he became a very good friend of mine. I spent some time with him doing a lot of things in Uganda. And one of the things he took me to was a camp for displaced Ugandans. These were guys that served their country in the war. Can't remember even what war it was against. But these are guys, when they left, served their country in the war, and while they were gone, their homes and their land were confiscated and taken over by other people. And so when they came back, they didn't have a place to stay, and they hoarded all of these guys over into this displaced Ugandans camp where they had to live in tents. And some of those guys were there for years. And I toured this camp with this guy, Kizito Johnson, and it just broke my heart. So this guy, Johnson, took me to his home, and I said, oh, gosh, I wonder how he lives. And sure enough, he lived in a cement home. He even had cement floors. But, the bathroom was outside. And, the bottom line, guys, is being rich is a relative thing. Depends where you live. I remember he came over here to the United States on a visit, and we're driving down Pearl Road. He came to church, actually, too. Jonathan invited him to church and welcomed him. But we're driving down Pearl Road after the service, and he's looking at this big building on the right, and he goes, what's that? I said, well, that's an animal hospital. Can you imagine? If you go to a developing country, the animals are running around wild. And over here we have doctors that serve animals, right? That take care of them, and we even had a hospital for them in case they're too sick. So he looked at me like, really? He had this look in his eyes. So, looking at this passage, these 6 verses, and I'm going, I need to check some other translations out. Sometimes when I look at the language, it helps me to check out different translations and see if it sheds any light. So I put a number of things on the notes there about that I think we should take a closer look at. So NIV, obviously what I read says, moths have eaten your clothes. How long do your clothes have to be sitting out before the moths start getting at them? Quite a long time, I would think, right? Your gold and your silver are corroded. Really? How long does your gold and your silver have to be out for it to be corroded? So the gist of that first verse is, hey, you're hoarding. You're keeping all your stuff, locked away someplace so that other people can't get it. And it's been around a really long time, You haven't done much with it. So NLT says it's corroded treasure, that you've hoarded. New Living Translation says that. King James, you've lived in pleasure. And here's the message brought to you in current language, right? You've lived it up. You fattened. You have a fatter than usual corpse. Talk about in your face, right? In your face. So you've lived a life of wanton pleasure. NASB, New American Standard, and Revised Standard says you've lived in luxury and pleasure. So you get the message there, right? Right? But he also focuses on the attitude. Not just stuffing riches away, but he's focusing on the attitude. The CEV says that you've thought only about having a good time with your wealth and your riches. You've abandoned yourself to soft living and self-gratification, the Amplified Version, and the Holman Bible says you've indulged yourselves. So, all about me, right? It's all about me. Saving it up. And you know that James has already spoken about the rich earlier, right? In the first chapter, he talked about how the rich are going to be humiliated and they'll pass away, that they'll fade away, especially in those last days. In James chapter 2, talked to us about the rich exploiting the poor. The rich are going to drag you into court. They even blaspheme the name of Jesus. And you get that impression that there were many Jews that were scattered that were being taken advantage of by rich and wealthy people. So I've looked at this, and I used to run an agency, an organization, and I thought, he's talking about employers. I used to be an employer. And I'm thinking that some of you guys have been employers. Maybe you have in your past life, and you're retired now, but some of you may be employers now. And I think James is looking at us and he's saying, hey, are you paying your people fairly? Are you making money off the backs of your employees? What are you doing with the money that you make? Is it money all that you're thinking about? And are you doing anything good with it? The last 5 verses of the previous chapter sets this whole thing up. And it talks about, are you doing anything good with the money that you're making? So here's the key idea. Chapter 5, it's a carryover from chapter 4. James wants to know, where's your heart? Where is your heart? And he's talking to this James 5:4 employer, and he says, you have stuffed your money away day after day after day after day, and you're just keeping it all to yourself. What's worse is that you've done that on the backs of your employees. You haven't paid them what they're worth, and you're doing this repeatedly to them. Not a good thing. So you're not just using your employees, you're abusing your employees. He's really getting in their face. And I had a really hard time with verse 6. Let's look at that again. You've condemned and murdered the innocent one who was not opposing you. So I'm going, man, what does that mean? Right? So I went to a commentary. I had to pull something out. So I went to a Matthew, what's the guy's name? Matthew Henry, yeah. Old-timer, Matthew Henry. I needed some help here. And this is what Matthew Henry said. When you do these things, hoard, take advantage, abuse people, when you do these things and you treat people this way repeatedly, over and over, it's like you're condemning them and you're murdering them. That's what Matthew Henry says. Cool. Pretty strong language. Pretty strong language. So, it's no coincidence. Pastor Jonathan talks on August 14th, right? And he's talking about wealth and riches, or stuff that you make, stuff that you save. And he says, yeah, it's okay for you to save. It is okay for you to save for your future. But do you also have this posture of open palms? What are you doing with the stuff that you save? And are you rich toward God? Those were his words, rich toward God. Are you rich toward God? Some of you guys know this, on Mondays, I go with Scott and Chris over to Lorraine Correctional. Bain comes. A couple of you other guys, Mike. And Jonathan gave that message on the 14th, right? And he gets at the end and he's praying, he's wrapping up his message, and he's praying there like this, right? Steve Atkins is there too. And Jonathan bows his head and he closes his eyes and he's praying with his open palms. And I look around the room. There's a bunch of guys in jail, in prison, with open palms. And they have their heads bowed. Cool stuff. So it's all about love, grow, and serve. You know, the heart of James's message is we're well off. Not just me, it's you. Everybody in this room is well off. But what are you doing with that surplus that you have? Are you hoarding? Are you letting it get corroded? In today's language, are you stuffing it away? Are you fattening yourself? Are you fattening your corpse from the message? So if you run a business, pay your employees what they're worth, right? Pay them a fair wage. And James is saying, take stock of where you're at. Where's your heart? And are you looking to acquire more things for yourself and you're neglecting those people in need? Who are those people? I think the Bible is the New Testament, Paul and James. It's peppered with, hey, take care of the sick. Those are hungry, and those are thirsty. Those are in prison. And you've heard that old adage, use your time and your talents and your treasure. You know, if you ain't got a lot of money, you got time, and you have treasures. You do have some money, and you have some talents too. You got to discover what you're good at and put it to good use, and carve out some time. So I just wanted to wrap up with, you know, Kizito Johnson, right? This guy I was walking around Uganda with and driving around and taking me places. You know what his job was? His job was to drill wells and boreholes in Uganda and to build latrines that were clean and to build shower stalls that were clean, to build wash yards so that people could wash their clothes, so that they could put clean clothes on. So here's a guy, you know, here we have Elon Musk, right? Over here, he's a rich guy, right? But you go over to Africa, and you're in a place like Uganda, a developing country, and I'm rich. And I'm talking to this guy, Kizito, and he's rich. Lives in a stone house, cement floor, and he's helping poor and disadvantaged people in his country. Holy cow, right? Holy cow. Making sure that people have fresh water, making sure that people can bathe themselves and go to the bathroom without there being a lot of stink around. Good stuff. There's another guy I met in Uganda. His name is Alan Kizito. No relation. There's a lot of Kizitos in Uganda. But Alan was a basketball player in Uganda and had a scholarship to go to the university there. And good guy, well off in Ugandan terms, and guess what he's doing? He's taking care of street orphans, right? Pulling kids off the street that are just eating garbage that's thrown away, and he brings them into a home. Got a home full of 55 kids, and it's called Sanyuka Children's Ministry. We had a group here of kids from Uganda that sang to our Forever Young group a couple years ago. They're from that place, and he teaches them, he sends them to school, boarding school, costs them money, and feeds them. They get 3 squares a day, and he teaches them about Jesus Christ. Good guy. And then there's one last guy I need to talk to you about. Good friend of mine, his name is John Dutton. John Dutton played in the AFL, the Arena Football League. If you remember back in those days, arena football was big across the country. It's not big anymore, but this were the days when you can make six figures playing arena football, indoor football, and this pro football, guys that did well in college but weren't good enough to play in the pros, and they had this arena football league. And Cleveland used to have a team. In fact, they were called the Cleveland Guardians. So John used to play out west. He played for John Elway. John Elway had an arena football team that he sponsored, and John Dutton was the quarterback for that team. And he actually set a record for how many touchdowns in a season, and then in his career. So what did John Dutton do with some of the stuff that he made when he was making six figures and big bucks? John Dutton actually quarterbacked the Cleveland Gladiators for a couple of years. That's how I met him. Met him out at Beulah Beach. And good guy, solid guy, Christian, loves the Lord. And John established an orphanage over in Ethiopia. And threw a lot of his wealth over in that area and took care of street orphans, just like Alan Casito did. So it's just, there are people around that do this kind of thing, and we need to pay attention to that. We all have time, at the very least, we all have time. Many of us have treasures that we can expend. We have surpluses. And many of us are talented. We just need to find out where we can love, grow, and serve, right? So that's all I got, guys. I want to bring Ed Christian up here. He's got something he wants to yell at you about. Don't you, Ed? Or do you want to stand up? Yeah. This one?
Go ahead and mute yourself. Good morning, online people. Good morning. Okay. This year for our church picnic, Grace asked the people who prepare and serve the meals for our weekly cruise-in or car show if we would do the same for the church picnic. Great, we did, or we were going to. With the postponement and the moving it 1 week later, we've run into just the teensiest problem. We need some help to serve the hot dogs and the hamburgers at the picnic on Sunday. One of our incredibly gifted chefs is unable to be there, and we're looking for help, somebody to flip burgers. And basically the time frame is this. The grills, everything is already there. We need someone to turn burgers over for about an hour and a half from 3 to about 4:30 and help do a little bit of cleanup on the grills, and that's it. So we have people there that know what they're doing, so it wouldn't be somebody just going in cold. What do I do now? There's good people that do this all the time and that can assist. So if anybody has the time, the gifts, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So please see me after you're done. You're done. Thank you.
So yeah, no experience necessary. They'll train you on the spot. Also, many of you guys have already signed up for the men's fall kickoff Monday night. Anybody signed up already? Mission Barbecue Catering. The online registration goes dead at midnight tonight because we've got to give a number to Mission Barbecue. But anyway, if you haven't signed up yet, or if you don't have a computer, you can let me know. Actually, you can let me know through Sunday if you'd like to go, but preferably today if you can. And you can just pay cash. So anyway, hope you'll join us Monday night, 6 p.m. in the gym. Pastor Jonathan is going to be speaking, and you're going to hear some great testimonies and hear about what's coming ahead this fall for the men's ministry. Amen? So kick it to the tables now. Enjoy your discussion time. We'll close at about 7:30 or so. I've been eating too on a mission when I was serving.